Hello, English 285. It's me, your loving teacher, Pete. Hey, look, I got Tiny Me fixed. He seems to be okay now, so that's a nice thing. I was thinking, this is. Wait, isn't that kind of cool? It's like my head. All right, people, here's Tiny Me. We'll keep him over here. Um, This video, I want to go through the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock relatively quickly as possible. I'm going to link down below to a recording of T.S. Eliot reading the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. I would like you to listen to that. I am not going to read it all the way through in an effort to sort of make the video as short as possible. So, follow along in your book or online, whatever. Look at the poem as I'm going through it so that we can look at it together and see some stuff. Okay, people, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Obviously, if somebody just says your name is J. Alfred Prufrock, I think that connotes a certain kind of person. And I'm not exactly sure what. Maybe rich, maybe pretentious, maybe nerdy, something. All right? His love song begins with a quote from Dante. Dante's in hell talking to souls that are trapped in a flame. And one of those souls says to Dante, if I thought that talking to you would ever get back up to earth, back to the real world, I would never tell you any of this stuff. But since we're all trapped in hell and nobody's ever going anywhere, I'll explain it. Just want to point out that that's a horrible way to start your love song, right? I hope my love song doesn't begin, I'm only telling you this because we're in hell. Let's go through this some. Let us go then, you and I, right? So we got an invitation. When the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. And what a beautiful image that is. And one of the things I want to point out through the poem is the beautiful images. So what's the sky like? It's like a patient etherized upon a table. It's sterile, it's cold, it's dead, it's, I don't know, whatever you associate with a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights and one-night cheap hotels, and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. So there used to be the idea that, so in a restaurant where you're eating a lot of oysters, they might have sawdust on the floor so that you could drop the oysters and it would, the shells and the moisture would be absorbed by the sawdust. So again, what kind of restaurant has sawdust on the floor? Well, probably not the greatest restaurant. Restless nights and one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. So you got that? Come on now. We're going to go through this crappy part of town, let's say, half-deserted streets, etc. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a sec. Obviously, that comes kind of out of the blue here, and this is a little fragmented. But I just want to point out the rest of this poem is kind of fragmented too, and that is so much like modern life, right? We are fragmented people. We are watching TV, we are going to work, we are doing all of this stuff. We're getting interrupted by our phones, we're blah, blah, blah. It's a fragmented way of life. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seen it was an soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. So the idea here is that the yellow fog is like a cat, or maybe a dog, but I think it's like a cat rubbing its back on the window pane. And again, yellow fog. This is not a pleasant image, right? If we want fog, we don't want it to be yellow. That suggests, I don't know, chemicals and sulfur and not a good fog. So far the poem is a piece of cake. Come on, let's go. We're going to go through all this crappy part of town. We're going to go where it's all foggy and but again, don't ask where we're going. We're just going to go. And then he says, and indeed there will be time. And this is the first part of the poem where he starts talking about time, which is obviously going to be a theme throughout the rest of the poem, right? Primarily that there isn't enough time. But he's going to say there is enough time, huh? Indeed, there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, right? Rubbing its back on the window panes, just like he just said. Because J. Alfred Prufrock's the kind of guy who repeats himself. Okay? There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces you make. Time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of toast and tea. And so he's like, oh, we got plenty of time. We got time to do this. We got time to do that. We've got time for 100 visions and revisions before a taking of toast and tea. So like, before I enjoy my Propel, I have enough time in my head for, I'm going to, visions and revisions and, right, thinking about the same thing over and over in different ways, etc. We can do those things in our head really, really fast. We can do it hundreds of times in seconds, it seems. At any rate, in the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo, and so now this is the second time we've done this, and again, an interruption in the poem. I'm not sure what we're supposed to make of it. I think all the long O sounds, oh, in the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo, makes it sound kind of boring and kind of repetitive. But I think probably what's most important here is that the speaker is sitting here, and here come the women talking about Michelangelo, which again, what kind of women is that? Maybe high-class women, maybe educated women, maybe pretentious women. Here they come, and then there they go. And the point is, to me, is that they are not with him. He is not with them. They are moving past him and moving past him again. And here he is in this poem, right? He's sitting there, and here they come, there they go. And then later on, here they come, there they go. And the whole time, they're still talking about Michelangelo. Not sure exactly what to make of that. Sounds good. I like how it sounds. I like the image of women coming and going, talking to Michelangelo. And indeed, there will be time. So he's going to repeat himself some more about how much time there is. Just want to say, this poem is full of references to all kinds of other works. We have some of those noted at the bottom in the footnotes, but there are many more references than the footnotes would suggest. I'm just going to say, and indeed there will be time for this and time for that and time for that. This reminds me of the Bible, right? To everything there is a season, time for love, time for hate, time for peace, time for war. So maybe that conjures up that image for you, right? There will be time to do this and do that. There's always time. And he says, and indeed there will be time to wonder, do I dare? Like, oh my God, should I do that? And then wonder, do I dare? And you can do it again. You can wonder again. Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. And so a bald spot in the middle of his hair, we know this is a somewhat older person, at least old enough to be going bald. Time to turn back and descend the stairs. So if I start walking up the stairs, I can always turn around and come back down the stairs. But with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. So he imagines going up the stairs, but then he imagines coming down the stairs. And when he imagines coming down, he imagines people above being able to see his bald spot, right? And they will say, how his hair is growing thin. My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin, my necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pen. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute, there is time for decisions and revisions, which a minute will reverse, which again sounds super terrific. I want you to note how many things in this poem sound really good. So there's time to wonder, do I do this? Do I do that? And he thinks, right, like here I am. When I come down the stairs, people are going to notice that my hair is growing thin. And when I get all dressed up with my coat and my collar and I'm looking good and all of that, they will say, oh my God, his arms and legs are thin. So he's very concerned with what people are thinking about him. He's getting older, getting thinner, getting balder. Do I dare disturb the universe? And of course, this is a great question because I don't even know how you would disturb the universe if you wanted to. I mean, the universe is doing its thing, and I'm not sure you and I can disturb it. But this is J. Alfred Prufrock. He thinks, well, maybe I don't know, maybe I can disturb the universe. Of course, there's also the universe of our little world. So, for instance, when he's coming back down the stairs and he hears somebody say, oh my God, your hair is going bald, he could disturb the universe by turning around and saying, hey, what's your problem? And of course, that would disturb the situation, etc. I'm not sure I know exactly what he means, but I do know what he means when he says, in a minute, there is time for decisions and revisions, which a minute will reverse. So like, in this minute, I can decide, hey, when I'm done with this video, I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to take Annie out. Oh, wait, before I do that, I'm going to check the laundry. Oh, wait, before I check the laundry, I'm going to need to check my email. Oh, wait, I'll check my email, I'll do the laundry, I go, okay, you get what I'm saying? I can re-envision what I'm going to do like that, right? Over and over again. And then you can make all those decisions and revisions to that, and then they can all be reversed in a second, right? So I could say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. But if I hear my son upstairs screaming right now, that might change all those things. Or if I get hit by a bus, it doesn't matter what all my things are. And so, moving on, for I have known them all already. And now we really know we're talking to an old man because young people don't talk like this. I have known the evenings, mornings, afternoons. I've measured out my life with coffee spoons. And we'll talk about that just a little in class, or we did talk about that, about what a beautiful image that is. And for me, what that means is I've measured out my life very meticulously. Worth noting in all of this that this is just the way that I look at the poem. I don't know. I've got the same information you do in terms of here's the poem. This is the way I see it, but it's not the only way for it to be seen. At any rate, I've measured out my life in coffee spoons, a very meticulous person, or maybe he's living from one cup of coffee to the next, which is sort of a sad way to live. I know the voice is dying with a dying fall beneath the music from a further room, so how should I presume? And I have known the eyes already. So he's like, I have known the evenings and the mornings and the afternoons. And now he's like, I have known the eyes already, known them all. The eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase. And when I'm formulated sprawling on a pen, when I'm penned wriggling on the wall, then how should I begin to spit out all of the butt ends of my days and ways? So, right, I have known the eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase. And so this is like... this is the snap judgments that we make of people. Or maybe this is like high school where, in high school, it's like if someone's a jock, they're the jock, and somebody else is the whore, and somebody else is the funny person, and somebody else is blah. And once you get stuck in that role, it is hard to get out of it. And he has it like, it's like an insect pinned to the wall, right? Like a dead insect. That's at least the image that I have here. And so it doesn't feel comfortable to be put in a formulated phrase. This is one of the beauties of coming to college, is those formulated phrases that have been said about you since you were whatever. You get to drop those and come to college and sort of start again, and maybe come up with a new person for yourself. I have known the arms already, known them, arms that are braceleted and white and bare, and so I'm going to say women's arms, but in the lamplight downed with light brown hair. Is it perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? And again, how beautiful that sounds. Arms that lie along the table, wrap around a shawl. So is it thinking of these women here that makes me so, just talking, makes me so nostalgic, or makes me so, talkative? I don't know. So what do we say? Like somebody says to you, what's your life like? You could say, well, I've known the eyes, I've known arms, I've known people, I've known time. And then he says, shall I say, okay, if I'm trying to explain myself, I could say, I have gone at dusk through narrow streets and watched the smoke that rises from the pipes of lonely men in shirt sleeves leaning out of windows. And so what an image this is. I've walked through the streets and I've seen lonely guys leaning out of windows. And then we have this beautiful image that, again, we either did or will discuss in class a little bit, which I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas. And so, again, I just want to point out here these images. That, that image, I should have been a pair of ragged claws, could mean so many things. If you're sitting somewhere on a bus and a person says, I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floor of silent seas, what does that mean? Well, it probably means you should move away from that person, but it means so many things. It's an image. It is not. He is not saying, "I feel bad," or "I feel lonely," or "I feel like I don't matter," or all of the things that image says. But he's not giving us the idea. He's giving us the image. And again, this is something that I'm going to say throughout the semester. Turn your ideas into images. Bad writing doesn't have good images in it. All right, that's not the only way to define bad writing, but I'm going to say this is one place we can start, is we can get rid of some of the ideas and replace those with images. And so now we have a sort of jump maybe in time, I don't know, and the afternoon, the evening sleeps so peacefully, and so he's got smoothed by long fingers stretched on the floor, and so the afternoon's like a pet that we're petting. And then he asks this question, and remember at the beginning he says, to lead you to an overwhelming question. Well, maybe this is the question. The question is, should I, after tea and cakes and ices, have the strength to force the moment to its crisis? Right? And so, but though I have wept and fasted, wept and prayed, though I have seen my head grown slightly bald, right, because he can't forget that he's going bald, brought in upon a platter, I am no prophet, and here's no great matter. I've seen the moment of my greatness flicker. I've seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker, and in short, I was afraid. For one, just again, how beautiful that all sounds. I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker, and in short, I was afraid. This is all very beautifully written, right? But also, too, right? So the question is after tea and after cakes and after ice cream, right? Like after we've done the stuff that people do and we're hanging out in an afternoon, am I going to have the strength to force the moment to its critical place, right? And here, I've wept and fasted, wept and prayed, but really this is no big deal, right? And so I want to say, I don't know about you, but I can certainly remember, right? Should I ask this person out? I like this person. What should I say? And you weep about it, and you pray about it, and you're scared about it. But, really it's no big deal. Really, you're just asking somebody something, and if they don't like it, whatever. But it's not that big a deal, but to us it feels like a huge deal. Especially when you're in high school and young. But here he is an old man, and it's still the same thing, people. Hard to ask for what you want, right? And he says again, here's the question again, would it have been worthwhile? After the cups and the marmalade and the tea, among the porcelain, among some talk of you and me, would it have been worthwhile to have bitten off the matter with a smile? How beautiful that is. To have squeezed the universe into a ball, to roll it towards some overwhelming question, to say, I am Lazarus, come from the dead, come back to tell you all, I shall tell you all. If one settling a pillow by her head should say, that is not what I meant at all, that is not it at all. So you get this question, what if I ask, what if I bite the matter off with a smile, like, hey, baby, would you like to go out, right? What if I just do it? What if I'm like Lazarus and I come back from the dead? It's like I've been dead, but I'm going to wake up and I'm going to say, hey, I'm here to say, baby, that I want to go out with you. Well, what happens if he does that and she says, that's not what I meant at all. That is not what I meant at all. Like, hey, I just want to be friends. Question is, what happens if I ask and she says no? And he says again, would it have been worthwhile? Would it be worthwhile after sunsets, after streets, after teacups, after skirts, and this and so much more? It is impossible to say just what I mean. But as if a magic lantern through the nerves and patterns on the screen, would it have been worthwhile if one settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl and turning toward the window should say, that is not it at all, that is not what I meant at all. So again, the question: if I ask, and he says, would it have been worthwhile? And he says, after skirts and coffee and tea and blah blah blah. And he says, and this and so much more. It's impossible to say what I mean. And I just want to say that for me, it's impossible to say what I mean, which is why I end up reaching to poetry. Because if I just use regular language, I can't get to stuff. It is very hard to get what you feel inside, to get what you think inside, to get that out. Um, I have experiences that I don't know how to relate without jumping to some sort of crazy use of language, which poetry might be considered. But he says it's impossible to say just what I mean. But he says, but as if a magic lantern through the nerves and patterns on the screen. So he's like, I can't say what I mean, but what if I had a magic lantern sitting in front of me and it shone through, shone through me and put my nerves up on the screen so that somebody could see what I was really thinking. If that happened, would it be worthwhile? Like she totally understands because she sees the inside of you. If you show the inside of it and the person says, that is not what I meant at all. So the question is, if you ask and they say no, was it worth it? And I just want to point out that J. Alfred Prufrock's kind of stupid. The answer to that question is always yes, right? I mean, yes. If your friend says to you, hey, should I ask so-and-so on a date? I'm scared to do that. What do you tell your friend? You tell your friend, yeah, go for it, right? You don't got anything to lose. Um, if you don't say that, you might be sort of a bad friend if you're like, no, dude, I don't think you should give that a shot. But right, the answer to that question is, do I risk rejection? And the answer is, I want to say in life, the answer is yes. You're not going to enjoy anything in life unless you're willing to risk it being a failure, right? That's where we're living the most, when we sort of take a chance and it either sort of pays off or it doesn't pay off. I always think of my son when he was playing basketball. You know, every time he throws up a shot, as a parent, you're like, oh, I hope it goes in. And sometimes it goes in and you're so happy for him. And sometimes he misses and it doesn't go in. And the point is he can't get the glory of the ball going in the hoop unless he's willing to risk the bad thing of the ball not going into the hoop, right? Everything is Oh, Stella, at one point in time, sang the national anthem at a sporting event, for a high school sporting event, and she'd done that a number of times. She's a good singer, but this time she somehow got messed up, and then she didn't know what to do, and she just kind of stopped, and it turned out that the whole crowd ended up singing it while she was standing there. It was very cute, but she, of course, was devastated, right? Really sad. But again, I want to point out, she can't get the glory of being a great singer unless she's willing to risk sucking, right? And that is always worth the risk, because that's where we get the good stuff. We have to put ourselves out there. But so the question is, do we do it? If we risk rejection and they say no, do we do it? And the answer is yes, but his answer is no. Why not? Because I'm not Prince Hamlet. I'm not some special guy. I'm not a prince. I'm just a regular old dude who hangs out with the prince, right? I'm full of high sentence, and they have off to the side. They have a full of high sentence. In case you don't know what that means, they put a little note for sententiousness, as if you know what sententiousness is. It seems like a stupid footnote. More complicated than the thing itself. Sententiousness is just using too many sentences, talking too much. Likewise, after that, he says, no, this isn't worth it because I'm a fool, people. I'm not a prince, but I just want to point out you don't got to be a prince to ask for what you want. I grow old, I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. And then again, they have like a little trousers roll turned up with cuffs. Oh, thanks a lot. We never would have fucking understood that. I don't get why that's there. But at any rate, you get the idea of an old man. I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled as you're getting older. And Shall I part my hair behind? Because again, he's obsessed with his hair. So the question roughly here is, do I do a giant comb over, right, to try to cover up the part, my hair going bald? Do I dare to eat a peach? Which has a sexual connotation, but also too, just do I dare to do stuff? Do I dare even to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I've heard the mermaids singing each to each. And so mermaids out there singing back and forth to each other, which reminds me a little of the women coming and going, talking of Michelangelo. They're talking to each other. They're not talking to him. I do not think they will sing to me. So, right? I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back. So even when he looks out at the ocean, all he sees is hair, right? Because he so misses his hair. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea by sea girls wreathed with seaweed red and brown till human voices wake us and we drown. The end of this poem's pretty a little nutso, but for most of this poem, I think it makes a whole bunch of sense. He says, "Hey, I wouldn't tell you all this stuff except we're not going anywhere. We're stuck in hell. In which case, I will tell you." And he says, "Come on, let's go. Let me tell you. Come on, I'll show you." And there's plenty of time to stuff. There's plenty of time for stuff. But here's the idea: if I ask someone and they say no, is that worth it? No, that's not worth it. That's what we've got, right? And then at the end, we have this image of him sort of on the beach, walking. He's an old man. The mermaids are out there doing their thing. Here he is the very end. We by sea girls wreathed with seaweed red and brown till human voices wake us and we drown. I'm not exactly sure how to interpret the end of this poem, but roughly the way that I interpret it is I say, hey man, here's this old man who's sitting in front of death. He knows death is coming because he's old, and he's never done what he wanted to do. He never took the risk. He never took the chances, none of that stuff. And because of that, he has not really lived. And here he is staring at death, and he knows death is like the ultimate risk. Death is the big one, right? And here he is. He's not going to know what it's like to be alive until he's dying. When dying, right, is again the sort of the biggest risk, the big chance, the thing that you have to do that you don't know what's going to happen. Right? So it seems like to me that he's like saying, I wake up at the moment that I die, because the moment I die is when I'm really doing something that happens. I'm really living life to its fullest because I'm taking this huge thing. So, right, I wake up at the moment I die, which is a horrible way to end your love song. I hope this all sort of makes sense to you. Again, I rushed through this relatively quickly. I want to talk about some of these images in class, etc. The images in this poem are super important to me. Notice how he rhymes sometimes, doesn't rhyme other times, but it all sounds good. So here's your assignment. You're going to write a response poem to this. So if you're sitting on a bus and the person beside you is like, let us go then, you and I, in the evening, spread out against the sky like a patient, etherized upon a table, let us go through certain... Okay, they say all this to you. What do you say in response? But you're going to write a poetic response to this poem, right? So J. Alfred Prufrock says, come on, and then he says, nah, none of it's worth it. Well, what's your response to that? You're going to write a poem. There is no length requirement. There is no requirement at all except to respond to J. Alfred Prufrock. Having said that, I would like you maybe to think about some of the stuff that T.S. Eliot does, rhyming sometimes, not rhyming other times, getting rid of ideas and replacing them with images, etc. I want you to think about doing those things in your poem. Your poem's due on Monday. And you will turn that in via Canvas. If you've got more questions about the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, you let me know. I'll be happy to try to answer them. Again, I ran through this really fast, but I wanted to give you sort of my take on how the poem goes to help you in your response. And again, the way that I interpret this is not the only way to interpret it. Hope everybody's well. Hope this all makes sense to you. And I look forward to seeing you soon, people. Have a great day. Bye-bye.